The blue light from the television flickered across Alex Rivera's face as he sat cross-legged on his bed, fork dangling from his mouth, eyes glazed over with the particular emptiness that comes from watching a rerun of a rerun at 2 in the morning. The cyborg detective on screen was delivering what was probably meant to be a profound monologue about the nature of consciousness, but Alex had stopped listening 3 episodes ago. His apartment, a glorified shoebox with pretensions of being a studio, smelled like sodium and regret. The instant noodle cup beside him had gone cold an hour ago, but he'd eaten it anyway because wasting food felt worse than subjecting his taste buds to congealed MSG. He should sleep. He had work in 5 hours. Another day of explaining to people that turning it off and on again was not a personal insult but a genuine solution to 90% of their problems. Another day of fluorescent lights and the slow realization that his computer science degree had somehow led him to a help desk where his most complex task was resetting passwords for people who used password 123 unironically. The cyborg detective was now fighting someone in a warehouse. There was always a warehouse. That's when the air in front of his closet began to shimmer. Alex blinked. Then blinked again. The shimmer didn't go away. It intensified, actually, folding in on itself like heat waves rising from summer asphalt, except the waves were purple and seemed to be rotating in a direction his eyes couldn't quite follow. A low hum filled the room, the kind that you feel in your teeth before you hear with your ears. "Okay," Alex said to the empty room, setting down his fork with exaggerated care. "This is either a stroke or I've finally achieved the nervous breakdown Dr. Patel said was coming." The shimmer tore open with a sound like fabric ripping, except the fabric was reality and the ripping made his brain itch. The hole in space was roughly person-sized, swirling with colors that shouldn't exist outside of a migraine, and through it stumbled a woman. She hit his floor hard, hands and knees, gasping. Her hair was dark and matted with something that glowed faintly blue in the television light. Her clothes looked like they'd been designed by someone who'd seen a human outfit once, in a dream, and tried to recreate it from memory using materials that probably violated several laws of physics. The fabric seemed to shift between solid and liquid states. But what stopped Alex's heart wasn't any of that. It was her ears. They rose from the sides of her head, sweeping upward and back, easily 5 inches long and tapering to delicate points. They twitched once, independently, like a cat's. "Can you please clean me, human?" Her voice was rough, accented in a way that suggested English was something she'd learned phonetically without ever understanding why anyone would put letters together in such illogical ways. Alex opened his mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. On screen, the cyborg detective exploded something. The laugh track from whatever show had started autoplaying was deeply inappropriate for the moment. "I'm going to need you to give me a second here," Alex managed, his voice climbing half an octave. "Because I'm processing several things simultaneously and none of them make sense." The woman's head lifted, and Alex saw her face properly. She would have been beautiful in the way that made you forget how to form sentences, except half her face was covered in burns that wept that same luminescent blue substance. Her eyes, impossibly large and gold-flecked, fixed on him with an intensity that suggested she was calculating whether he was useful or just decorative. "Second granted," she said, and then her arms gave out and she collapsed fully onto his floor, which was already questionable before it had alien blood on it. Okay, no." Alex scrambled off his bed, nearly tripping over his discarded jeans. "No dying. We're not doing dying. I can't explain a body. I can barely explain my credit card bill." He knelt beside her, hands hovering uselessly above her body because every first aid training video he'd ever half-watched had definitely not covered extraterrestrial injuries. Her back was worse than her face. The burns cut through her strange clothing in geometric patterns, like someone had attacked her with a weapon that dealt damage in straight lines and right angles. The blue substance, blood, he had to assume it was blood, was pooling on his laminate flooring. "Your dwelling is smaller than anticipated," she murmured, face pressed against his floor. "Also, it smells." "You know what, that's fair criticism actually," Alex said, looking around his apartment as if seeing it through alien eyes suddenly made the pizza boxes stacked by the door seem worse. But maybe we table the property review until you're not bleeding on said property. She made a sound that might have been a laugh or might have been pain. Bathroom. Water. I need, she gestured vaguely at herself. Right, yes, cleaning, you said that. Alex slid his arms under her, expecting her to weigh what a person her size should weigh, but she was lighter, as if her bones were hollow like a bird's. She tensed as he lifted her, a small gasp escaping. Careful, human. I'm injured, not baggage. Alex. My name is Alex, not human, and I'm being extremely careful considering I learned about your existence approximately 90 seconds ago. He half-carried, half-dragged her to his bathroom, which was roughly the size of a closet and only slightly cleaner. The fluorescent light buzzed to life, harsh and revealing. In the better lighting, her injuries looked worse. The burns covered her arms, her back, parts of her neck. The blue blood had soaked through her clothing. Sit, he said, lowering her onto the closed toilet lid. She slumped against the wall, those strange ears drooping slightly. I need you to remove the damaged covering, she said, gesturing at her clothes. Alex's face went hot. I'm sorry, what? The fabric. It's fused to some wounds. I can't, she tried to reach behind herself and winced. I require assistance. Right. Medical. This is medical. Alex was talking to himself now, running water in the sink because he needed something to do with his hands. Completely professional. You're injured. I'm helping. This is fine. Everything is fine. Your psychological reassurance is unconvincing. Yeah, well, your interdimensional arrival was unscheduled, so we're both dealing with Alex had gone through his entire bathroom cabinet twice now, and the fundamental problem remained. Nothing he owned was designed for glowing blue alien blood. The hydrogen peroxide sat uselessly beside the sink. The antibiotic ointment seemed laughable. He'd even considered the bottle of rubbing alcohol before Lyrie had given him a look that suggested she could read his thoughts and found them insulting. Your medical supplies are aggressively inadequate, she said, perched on the edge of his bathtub now, her strange clothes puddled around her waist in a way that made Alex focus very intently on the ceiling tiles. The burns across her back formed patterns that looked almost deliberate, like circuit boards etched into skin. Well, generally I prepare for paper cuts and hangovers, not interdimensional courier emergencies. He wrung out the washcloth for the fourth time, the water in the sink now faintly luminescent. Should I be worried about your blood? Like, biohazard worried? It's not corrosive if that's your concern. That was one of several concerns, yes. Lyrie shifted, wincing as the movement pulled at her injuries. The wounds need light. Cellular regeneration accelerates under specific wavelengths. Alex stared at her. You're photosynthetic. No, I still require food, don't be ridiculous. She said it like he was the one being absurd. But my species evolved under a binary star system. Our healing biology adapted. Light feeds the process. Okay. Alex looked around his bathroom, which had exactly one light source, the fluorescent tube that made everyone look vaguely deceased. I have this, a lamp in the bedroom, and my phone flashlight. Pick your preferred sun substitute. Lyrie's ears perked up slightly, the points tilting forward in what Alex was beginning to recognize as interest. Your communication device produces light. Yeah, it does a lot of things. Mostly disappoints my mother with my infrequent calls, but it has a flashlight function. He pulled his phone from his pocket, thumbing it to life. The screen cast a white glow across the bathroom. Like this? Closer. He moved the phone toward her shoulder where one of the burns looked particularly angry. The moment the light touched her skin, something happened. The blue blood seemed to drink in the illumination, and the edges of the wound began to knit together, not fast enough to watch but fast enough to notice the difference after a few seconds. "Huh," Alex said intelligently. "Your primitive device is surprisingly effective." Lyrie's voice had relaxed slightly, the pain easing. "Maintain that position. My arm is going to fall asleep. Your temporary discomfort versus my significant injuries. Calculate the priority. You're very demanding for someone who crashed through my ceiling. Wall, actually. I came through the wall." Alex held the phone steady, watching the wound slowly close. The blue blood stopped flowing, the glow fading to something more like a shimmer before disappearing entirely. "So, courier. What exactly were you delivering that was worth an ambush?" Lyrie was quiet for a moment. Her ears flattened slightly, which Alex was learning meant she was uncomfortable. "Information. Crystallized data formats. Very standard. Standard things don't usually result in people crashing through walls covered in geometric burns. Standard for interdimensional couriers," she amended. "Less standard for, say, tech support workers." "How do you know I do tech support?" She gestured vaguely at his apartment, visible through the bathroom door. "The certifications on your wall. The outdated equipment in various states of disassembly. The aura of profound career disappointment." "Wow." Alex moved the phone to another wound. "You've been here 15 minutes and already diagnosed my life choices. I'm efficient." Despite the words, there was something almost playful in her tone. "Also, your dwelling smells like defeated dreams and microwaved regret. That's the second time you've insulted my apartment. I didn't realize there was a limit." Alex found himself laughing, which seemed inappropriate given the circumstances but also the only reasonable response to having a wounded alien insult his life while he performed impromptu light therapy with his phone. "You know, most people who need help are slightly more grateful. Most people who provide help don't live in what appears to be a storage container with delusions of grandeur. It's a studio apartment in a major city. This is actually pretty good for the rent." Lyrie looked around with exaggerated slowness, her ears rotating independently like satellite dishes scanning for signs of value. "I've seen cargo holds with more character. Are you always this rude, or is this a cultural thing? I'm in significant pain and stranded in an unfamiliar dimension. I'm being remarkably polite given the circumstances." She paused. "Also, what is that smell?" "The specific one, underneath the general miasma of poor life choices." Alex sniffed. "Probably the noodles. I was eating when you arrived." "That's food." "That's what the package claims. Your species has achieved interplanetary awareness but still consumes things from packages that require preparation through water and shame." "I'm sorry, are you critiquing my diet now?" "Because you're still technically an uninvited guest." Lyrie twisted slightly to look at him, and Alex realized her injuries were already significantly better. The worst burns had closed to thin lines, the blue glow barely visible. "I didn't have time to send ahead for an invitation. The people shooting at me were quite insistent." "Right. The aggressive repo men." Alex lowered his phone, his arm genuinely sore now. "You want to elaborate on that? Because I'd like to know what level of danger I'm in. Like, on a scale from mild inconvenience to should I be packing a bag? You don't have anywhere to go. This is your dimension. That's not reassuring." Lyrie stood carefully, testing her mobility. The strange fabric of her clothing had somehow repaired itself, flowing back up over her shoulders like liquid mercury. "The package I was carrying contains information. Sensitive information about certain parties who would prefer it remain undelivered." "What kind of information?" "The kind that starts wars or prevents them, depending on who receives it first." The portal device lay between them on Alex's coffee table, which was actually a cardboard box with ambitions, surrounded by the disemboweled remains of 2 old smartphones, a dead laptop, and what had once been a very expensive gaming router. Alex had his reading glasses on, the ones he pretended he didn't need, squinting at the device's internals with the intensity of a surgeon or someone trying to defuse a bomb. Given the occasional spark, it might have been both. This component here, Lyrie pointed with one long finger, her nails slightly more pointed than a human's, regulates the dimensional frequency. If you destabilize it further, we'll open a hole to somewhere extremely unpleasant. Define unpleasant. Imagine your dwelling, but worse. I'm not sure that's physically possible. I assure you, the universe has depths of unpleasantness you cannot fathom. She leaned closer, her hair falling forward. It still had traces of that blue luminescence in it, like she'd been highlighted by a cosmic hairdresser. That wire, the copper one, connects to what you'd call the power supply. Alex carefully touched the wire with his screwdriver. The device hummed, then made a sound like a cat being questioned about its life choices. Is that supposed to happen? No, but it's also not exploding, so continue. Your encouragement needs work. He twisted two connections together, using electrical tape because apparently interdimensional technology and hardware store supplies were compatible. What I don't understand is how this thing is even powered. There's no battery pack, no obvious energy source. It draws from the ambient dimensional membrane. Your reality has a constant energy state. We just borrow from it. You're telling me you're running on the universe's credit card. That's actually not a terrible analogy. Lyrie sat back, watching him work with those unsettling gold-flecked eyes. Your hands are steady. You've done this before. I've repaired things, yeah. Usually computers, occasionally toasters. Never interdimensional courier equipment, but the principle is probably similar. Don't cross the streams, don't short the circuits, try not to create a localized apocalypse. Those are excellent guidelines for life generally. Alex connected a small lithium battery from one of the phones to what Lyrie had indicated was the stabilizer circuit. The device's humming evened out, becoming almost pleasant. Okay, power is regulated. Now the scanning function. That's more complicated. The crystal array processes multidimensional signatures. Your technology doesn't have an equivalent. But it has to convert that data into something usable, right? Some kind of output. Alex traced the connections with his finger, following the logic. Here. This looks like a display interface. And these clusters, they're processing nodes. Lyrie's ears perked forward, both of them, which Alex had learned meant he'd surprised her. You can read the architecture. I can read patterns. Logic flows. This, he tapped a burnt-out section, used to connect to this. It's just a bridge. We don't need the original crystal if we can substitute the function. Substitute with what? Alex picked up his phone, the same one he'd used to heal her wounds. This processes millions of calculations per second. It has GPS, Wi-Fi scanning, Bluetooth. It's designed to detect and interpret signals. He looked at her. Can your device interface with primitive technology? In theory, yes. The dimensional membrane is universal. But the processing protocols are just translations. Code is code, whether it's C++ or whatever you're running. Alex was already opening his phone's developer options, something he'd enabled years ago and never actually used. If I can jury-rig a connection and write a basic interpretation script, your device might be able to use my phone as a substitute sensor array. Lyrie stared at him. That's either brilliant or will cause a cascade failure that collapses this local region of spacetime. So a normal Tuesday for me, honestly. 20 minutes later, Alex had connected his phone to the portal device using a USB cable, 3 paper clips, and electrical tape that was doing a lot of heavy lifting both literally and metaphorically. His phone's screen displayed lines of code he'd written in a text editor, simple algorithms designed to interpret whatever signals the device could pick up and translate them into something resembling GPS coordinates. Moment of truth, he said, and activated the connection. His phone screen went white. Then black. Then displayed what looked like static having an existential crisis. The portal device hummed, and suddenly his phone showed a map of his apartment building and the surrounding 3 blocks, but wrong. Layered. Like someone had photocopied reality multiple times and stacked the copies slightly offset. "It's working," Lyrie whispered. "You actually made it work. Don't sound so shocked. I have a degree in this stuff." "Which you use to reset passwords." "Yes, thank you for that reminder of my life choices." Alex zoomed in on the map. There were several bright spots scattered across it, pulsing gently. "Are these the dimensional signatures?" "Yes. Most are residual, probably from my arrival. But this one," she pointed to a spot 2 floors down and 3 apartments over, "is much stronger." "That's the package." Alex looked at where she was pointing. "That's Mrs. Chen's apartment. You know this person? She's like 80, makes incredible dumplings, and once yelled at me for 20 minutes about leaving my laundry in the shared machines. She's definitely not a dimensional package recipient. The package doesn't discriminate based on recipient qualifications. It simply is." Lyrie stood, moving toward his door. "We need to retrieve it immediately." "Wait, we can't just break into her apartment." "Why not?" "Because that's illegal. And rude. And Mrs. Chen has a baseball bat she's not afraid to use." Alex grabbed Lyrie's arm, pulling her back. "We need a plan. A story. Something that explains why we're there. Tell her the truth. That an interdimensional courier lost a package containing sensitive information that could start wars and it accidentally landed in her apartment. That'll go great. She'll definitely not call the police or try to hit us with the aforementioned baseball bat." Lyrie's ears tilted in different directions, a gesture Alex was learning meant she was thinking. "What would be a believable excuse in your culture?" "I don't know. We borrowed something. We need to return it." "What would she have lent you?" Alex thought about this. Mrs. Chen had lived in the building for 30 years. She knew everyone, remembered everything, and had strong opinions about proper hallway conduct. A phone charger. The thunder that wasn't thunder came again, closer this time, and the lights in the hallway flickered. Mrs. Chen's eyes narrowed in the specific way of someone who'd survived rent increases, 3 husbands, and the city's attempt to convert the building to condos. She was not impressed by ominous atmospheric disturbances. "That better not be the electrical system again," she said. "I just complained to management about the breaker box." "Mrs. Chen," Alex said, trying to keep his voice level and failing spectacularly, "I need you to trust me right now, which is asking a lot given that I once flooded the laundry room, but that glowing thing in your apartment needs to come with us immediately." "Alex Rivera, are you on drugs?" "I wish. That would explain so much about tonight." Lyrie pushed past him, her patience apparently expired. "Ma'am, that object is dangerous. It's emitting a signature that's being tracked by individuals who will not be polite about retrieval." Mrs. Chen looked Lyrie up and down, taking in details Alex knew he'd missed. The way Lyrie stood, too still, like someone used to different gravity. The way her eyes caught the light wrong. The hair that didn't quite fall naturally. "You're not from around here," Mrs. Chen said. "Canada," Alex tried desperately. "She's from Canada. Canada doesn't make people stand like that." Mrs. Chen's hand moved to the baseball bat Alex knew she kept by the door. "What's really going on?" The building shook. Not earthquake shaking, but wronger, like reality had hiccuped. Through the window at the end of the hallway, Alex saw the air beginning to shimmer the way it had in his bedroom, except larger, angrier, and definitely more threatening. "That," Lyrie said, pointing. "That's what's going on. We can explain later if we survive, but right now we need that crystal and we need to not be here." Mrs. Chen looked at the shimmer, looked at Lyrie, looked at Alex, and made a decision informed by 8 decades of life experience and absolutely zero patience for nonsense. "The glowing thing appeared on my counter and scared my cat. I already don't like it. Take it." She unhooked the chain, opened the door fully, and Alex had never been more grateful for a neighbor's pragmatism in his life. He rushed past her to the table, grabbed the crystal from its bowl of potpourri. It was warm, heavier than it looked, and vibrated slightly like a phone on silent mode, and turned back. "Thank you, Mrs. Chen. Seriously. You're amazing. I'm calling management about the electrical situation," she said, already closing the door. "And Alex, your girlfriend needs better shoes for the hallways. Those make too much noise." The door shut. The locks clicked. Alex looked at Lyrie, who'd apparently been making noise he couldn't even hear. "I like her," Lyrie said. "Everyone does. She's terrifying and makes incredible dumplings." Alex clutched the crystal, which was now cycling through colors faster, like it knew danger was coming. "Okay, we have the package. Now what?" "Now we run." The shimmer at the end of the hallway tore open with a sound like glass breaking backwards. Through it stepped two figures that made Alex's brain try to file them under human before giving up entirely. They were roughly person-shaped, but their suits, if they were suits and not skin, rippled with colors that hurt to look at directly, adaptive camouflage struggling to match the hallway's floral wallpaper and fluorescent lighting. The effect was nauseating. "Courier Lyrie," one of them said, voice synthesized and flat. "Return the package and we'll minimize collateral damage." "That's not reassuring," Alex whispered. "It's not meant to be." Lyrie grabbed his arm, pulling him toward the stairwell at the opposite end of the hall. "Run. Now." They ran. Behind them, the collectors moved with the inevitability of tax season, not fast but relentless. Alex hit the stairwell door with his shoulder, nearly dropping the crystal, and they tumbled through. Lyrie slammed it shut behind them. "That won't hold them," she said. "What will hold them?" "Several feet of reinforced dimensional shielding, which your building notably lacks." They took the stairs down, Alex's sneakers squeaking on the concrete, Lyrie's footsteps silent despite Mrs. Chen's complaint. Behind them, the stairwell door didn't open so much as cease existing. The collectors stepped through the space where it had been. "They can do that?" Alex gasped, his lungs already burning. "They can just delete doors. They're equipped for obstacle removal. Doors, walls, inconvenient people. That last one seems bad." "It's very bad." They hit the fourth-floor landing. Alex had a thought, probably a terrible one, but all his thoughts lately had been terrible, so at least he was consistent. "The maintenance room. In the basement." "Why?" "Because it's full of pipes, electrical panels, and things we can barricade with. Also, there's a back exit that leads to the alley. You want to trap ourselves in a basement. I want to not be in an open stairwell where we're easy targets." Another reality hiccup shook the building. Somewhere above them, something that might have been a weapon charging made a sound like a dentist's drill crossed with a thunderstorm. "Also, I'm open to better suggestions." Lyrie calculated for exactly half a second. "Basement. Move." They descended 3 more floors at speeds that would have given Alex's high school gym teacher hope for his fitness, then crashed through the basement door into a concrete space filled with the building's mechanical guts. Pipes ran along the ceiling like metal intestines. The electrical panel took up most of one wall, buzzing with the effort of keeping a 40-year-old building functional. In the corner, the water heater that had been, temporarily, placed there in 2015 gurgled ominously. "Help me," Lyrie said, already shoving a metal storage shelf toward the door they'd entered through. Alex put the crystal down. It immediately started projecting dancing lights on the ceiling like a cosmic disco ball, and grabbed the other end of the shelf. Together they wedged it against the door. Then added a tool chest. Then a box of what might have been old light fixtures or possibly cursed artifacts, based on the smell. "That'll buy us 30 seconds, Lyrie said. "Your optimism is inspiring. I'm being generous with the estimate." Alex looked around the basement, his tech support brain automatically cataloging the systems. "Okay, you said your portal device needs power to work properly." Yes, but we already repaired, Lyrie stopped, understanding dawning. The electrical panel. This building runs on a 200 amp service. If I can redirect enough power to your device, could you open a stable portal? To where? I don't have coordinates for anywhere safe in this dimension. To your dimension. To wherever you were supposed to deliver that thing. Alex pointed at the crystal, which was now humming audibly, resonating with something in the building's structure. Get us out of here. Lyrie's ears perked straight up. That's actually not terrible. I'm full of not terrible ideas when I'm terrified. The door at the top of the stairs exploded inward. The barricade held for exactly the 30 seconds Lyrie had predicted, then began disintegrating, the metal simply ceasing to be solid. The collectors descended, methodical and unhurried. How long do you need? Alex asked, already moving to the electrical panel. 2 minutes to calibrate. Alex landed on something that felt like stone but gave slightly under impact, absorbing the fall in a way that concrete definitely didn't. His entire body felt wrong, like he'd been disassembled at the molecular level and reassembled by someone working from a badly translated instruction manual. Every cell was filing a complaint. That, he managed, voice hoarse, was significantly worse than unpleasant. I may have understated slightly. Lyrie was already on her feet, checking the crystal, which had survived the journey better than Alex's dignity. But we're alive and intact. Success by courier standards. Alex opened his eyes and immediately regretted having functional vision. They were on a platform, wide and circular, made of material that looked like marble infused with circuit boards. Above them, the sky was wrong, 2 suns, one amber and one pale blue, hanging at different angles and casting overlapping shadows that made his depth perception scream. Around them rose towers, hundreds of them, crystal and metal spires that caught the double sunlight and refracted it into colors Alex was reasonably certain his eyes weren't designed to process. Welcome to Threshold City, Lyrie said, offering him a hand up. Primary hub for dimensional commerce, courier operations, and really excellent street food. Your dimension has street food? Every dimension has street food. It's a universal constant. Alex took her hand, letting her pull him vertical. His legs wobbled but held. Around them, the platform was busy with activity, beings of various configurations moving with purpose, some humanoid, some definitely not, all ignoring the arrival of one disheveled courier and one dimension-shocked human. A creature that looked like someone had given an octopus both ambition and business-casual attire slithered past, carrying a briefcase in 3 of its tentacles. Nobody's reacting to me, Alex said. Why would they? Threshold City sees 1,000 species daily. You're unremarkable by local standards. I've never been called unremarkable in such a comforting way. Lyrie secured the crystal in a bag that appeared from her clothing in a way that suggested pockets worked differently here. The delivery point is 6 blocks from here. We walk, I hand over the package, I file a report about the ambush, and then we address the situation of you being stranded in another dimension. Right. That situation. Alex looked around at the impossible city, the binary suns, the casual miracle of interdimensional civilization. I should probably panic about that. Probably, yes. I'm not, though. Panicking. I noticed. They started walking, leaving the arrival platform via a ramp that spiraled down into the city proper. The streets, if they were streets and not something else entirely, were organized in 3-dimensional grids, with some traffic moving horizontally and some moving vertically along what appeared to be designated air currents. Buildings extended both up and down, the concept of ground being more suggestion than rule. So, Alex said, dodging a floating cart selling something that glowed and smelled like cinnamon having an argument with electricity, the collectors. Are they going to follow us here? No. Tracking across established dimensional borders requires permits, forms, and more bureaucracy than anyone wants to deal with. They'd need to file a grievance with the courier union, which would take months. Lyrie navigated the crowd with practiced ease, her ears rotating to track multiple conversations. They'll cut their losses and move on. That seems anticlimactic. Interdimensional commerce runs on paperwork, not drama. The dramatic parts are actually system failures. They passed a shop selling what Alex assumed were books, though the volumes shifted shape when he looked at them directly. Next to it, a cafe with outdoor seating where beings of various configurations consumed substances in various states of matter. The air smelled like ozone and spices Alex had no names for, and underneath it all, something like rain about to fall. I should be freaking out, Alex said, more to himself than Lyrie. I'm in another dimension. I can't go home. My apartment, my job, my entire life is in a reality I can't reach. Yes. But my apartment smelled like regret, my job made me want to fake my own death quarterly, and my entire life was basically waiting for something to happen. He stopped walking, looking up at the towers, the impossible sky, the casual magic of everything. Something happened. Lyrie stopped too, turning to face him. Her ears tilted in that thoughtful way, her gold-flecked eyes studying him. You could return. It would take time to arrange, permits and coordination, but the courier union has procedures for displaced individuals. How long? 3 to 6 months. Possibly a year if there are complications. And in the meantime? In the meantime, you'd need somewhere to stay. Employment. Purpose. She paused. Couriers often work in teams. The pay is terrible, the hours are worse, and people occasionally shoot at you with weapons that violate causality. You're offering me a job. I'm suggesting a mutually beneficial arrangement. You proved competent under pressure. You repaired my device with primitive components and electrical tape. You didn't panic when reality became negotiable. Her ears perked forward. Also, you're already here and unemployment is awkward in any dimension. Alex laughed, the sound surprising him with its genuine quality. I work tech support. I help people who can't figure out how to unmute themselves on video calls. I'm not qualified for interdimensional anything. You navigated a dimensional courier crisis while maintaining humor in the face of potential disintegration. You're overqualified for most positions. Lyrie started walking again, and Alex followed because the alternative was standing alone in an alien city having an existential crisis, and he'd had enough of those in his apartment. The work is dangerous but interesting. Bureaucratic but meaningful. You'd be traveling constantly, meeting beings from civilizations your species won't encounter for centuries, and occasionally preventing wars through reliable package delivery. That sounds insane. Yes. Completely unreasonable. Absolutely.